The sky turned red over New Berlin. Not the soft red of sunset, but the angry red of plasma fire raining down from space. Ships hung in the atmosphere like dark metal birds, and from their bellies came death. Admiral Iran stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. He watched the destruction through the massive viewing window. His 4 eyes showed no emotion. His scaled hands rested calmly on the railing. This was not war to him. This was pest control. "The eastern continent is burning well," reported his second officer. "Human resistance is minimal." "As expected," Iran replied. "They never learn. 7 times we have come. 7 times they rebuild. 7 times they refuse to submit." The consortium had ruled this section of the galaxy for 10,000 years. 12 species had joined together under one flag, one purpose. They kept order. They maintained peace. And when a species proved too dangerous, too aggressive, too unpredictable, they removed the threat. Humans were such a threat. 200 years ago, human ships had first left their solar system. They had come with smiles and offers of friendship. But the consortium had seen what humans truly were. They had studied Earth's history. They had seen the wars, the violence, the endless conflict. Humans killed each other over skin color, over invisible lines on maps, over words in old books. A species like that could not be trusted with the stars. So the consortium had attacked. The first massacre killed 2 billion humans. The message was clear: stay in your system or die. But humans did not stay. They rebuilt. They spread. They refused to accept their place in the galaxy. Now, on this 7th attack, Iran intended to finish the job. Below him, the city of New Berlin disappeared under a wave of fire. 10 million humans died in seconds. Iran felt satisfied. This was necessary. This was right. But deep beneath the burning surface of Earth, in bunkers carved into the planet's core, humanity was not dying. They were watching. They were waiting. And they were remembering. Commander Sarah stood in the central command bunker, 3 kilometers below what used to be the Pacific Ocean. Around her, thousands of military officers and scientists worked at their stations. Their faces were calm. Their movements were precise. They had trained for this moment for decades. "Surface casualties?" she asked. 14 billion confirmed dead," replied her aide. "They are being thorough this time." Sarah closed her eyes. 14 billion, more than half of humanity, gone in a single day. She thought of her mother who had lived in Shanghai. She thought of her brother who had worked in the New York Restoration Project. She thought of all the children who would never grow up, all the dreams that would never be realized. But she did not cry. She had cried during the 3rd massacre when she was just a child hiding in a shelter. She had cried during the 4th when her father did not return. She had cried during the 5th when she held her dying husband in her arms. Now she was empty of tears. Now she was filled with something else. "Project Prometheus status?" she asked. "All nodes are active. We have confirmation from every sector." Sarah nodded. For 200 years, while humanity had publicly mourned and rebuilt, they had secretly prepared. Every attack had made them stronger. Every massacre had taught them lessons. They had hidden their true technology, their true capabilities, their true nature. The galaxy thought humans were weak. The galaxy thought humans were primitive. The galaxy thought humans would eventually break and submit. The galaxy was wrong. "Send the signal to all surviving bunkers," Sarah ordered. "Phase 1 is complete. We have absorbed their attack. Now we wait for them to leave." Her aide looked at her with confusion. "We are not going to fight back." "Not yet. We have waited 200 years. We can wait a few more months. Let them think they have won. Let them celebrate. Let them relax." She turned to face the massive screen that showed the burning surface of Earth. Her face was hard as stone. "Then we will show them what humanity truly is." Above, Admiral Iran declared victory. His ships had burned every major city, destroyed every visible military installation, killed billions of humans. The survivors would be broken. They would finally submit. The human threat was ended. He ordered his fleet to return home. There would be celebrations. There would be honors and medals. He would be remembered as the admiral who finally solved the human problem. As his ships jumped to hyperspace, Orion allowed himself a rare smile. The galaxy was safe once more. He did not see the small human satellites that watched his departure. He did not detect the quantum signals that traveled faster than light to hidden stations throughout the galaxy. He did not know that every move his fleet made was being recorded, analyzed, and stored. He did not know that humanity had already placed weapons near every consortium world, silent, hidden, waiting. In the bunker below the Pacific, Commander watched the alien fleet leave. She turned to her officers, who waited for her orders. "Begin Phase 2, she said. "Contact all surviving human colonies. Tell them the time of submission is over. Tell them the time of hiding is over." She looked at the image of Earth's burning surface one last time. "For 200 years we have been victims. We have begged for peace. We have offered friendship. We have done everything a civilized species should do, and they have answered with fire and death, again and again." Her voice grew cold. "No more. We gave them every chance to see us as equals. We gave them every opportunity to live in peace with us. They refused. They chose war. They chose massacre." She pressed a button, and across the galaxy, in hidden bases and secret stations, humanity began to move. Now they will learn what war truly means. Now they will understand what happens when you push humanity too far. Now they will see that we were never weak. She paused. "We were patient, we were merciful, we were kind." Her eyes burned with cold fire. "Those days are over. Humanity has given its last forgiveness. The next time they attack, there will be no survivors, no mercy, no second chances." Around her, officers nodded grimly. They had all lost family. They had all lost friends. They had all watched their world burn 7 times. Now it was time for the galaxy to understand fear. Humanity had been taught that peace required strength. They had learned that lesson well. And soon, very soon, they would teach it back. 6 months had passed since the 7th massacre. The consortium celebrated their victory. Admiral Orion received medals and honors. Songs were written about his great achievement. The human threat, they believed, was finally over. Then the reports started coming. Ambassador Era sat in her office on the consortium, reading the latest intelligence summaries. Her long fingers trembled slightly as she turned each page. Her silver eyes grew wider with each word. Human ships had been spotted at the edges of consortium space, not the primitive vessels they had seen before. These were different. These were impossible. The ships moved without visible engines. They appeared and disappeared without warning. They traveled faster than any known technology allowed, and they were everywhere, watching, waiting, silent. "This cannot be accurate," Era said to her intelligence chief. "Humans do not have this technology. They are primitive. They are broken." "The reports are confirmed, Ambassador. Multiple across 12 sectors. The ships do not respond to communication. They do not attack. They simply observe." Era felt something she had not felt in centuries: fear. She ordered a human prisoner brought to her. The woman had been captured during the 7th massacre. She was thin, her body covered in burn scars, her eyes empty. But when Era asked about the ships, something changed in those empty eyes, something that looked like satisfaction. "You want to know about our ships?" the woman asked. Her voice was rough from months of silence. "Finally, we wondered when you would notice." "What technology is this? Where did it come from?" The woman laughed. It was not a happy sound. "You attacked us 7 times in 200 years. 7 times you burned our world. 7 times you killed billions of our people. Did you think we spent those 200 years just crying and rebuilding? Era leaned forward. Explain. Project Prometheus. That is what we call it. While you watched our cities burn and thought us defeated, we worked in secret, deep underground, in hidden stations, in places you never thought to look. The woman's smile grew wider. We studied your technology, we improved it, we went beyond it. We created things your scientists say are impossible. Black hole engines, quantum weapons, planet killers. You are lying. Humans cannot create such things. That is what we wanted you to believe. We let you see us as primitive. We let you think you were superior. We hid our true capabilities because we hoped, somehow, that you would stop attacking us. We hoped you would see us as equals and leave us in peace. Her smile faded. But you never stopped. You kept coming, you kept killing, so we kept building. Era felt cold. How many ships do you have? Ships? You think Prometheus is just ships? The woman shook her head. Prometheus is a network. Thousands of weapons platforms hidden in the dark spaces between stars. Each one is capable of destroying a planet. Each one is connected to a central command. Each one is waiting for orders. Waiting for what orders? The woman looked directly into Era's silver eyes. Waiting for you to attack us again. And when you do, when the first consortium weapon fires on a human world, those platforms will activate. Every consortium world will burn. Every station will be destroyed. Every member species will be reduced to dust. Era stood quickly, her chair falling backward. This is a bluff. You cannot have such weapons. Go to the system, coordinates 773 by 429. You will find one of our platforms there. Examine it, scan it, learn what it can do. She leaned back in her chair. Then ask yourself, if we showed you one, how many others are hiding in places you will never find? Against her better judgment, Era sent a fleet to the system. What they found changed everything. The platform was massive, larger than any station the consortium had ever built. It hung in the darkness between stars, invisible to normal sensors. Only the coordinates provided by the human prisoner allowed them to locate it. When they scanned it, the scientists went pale. The weapon at its center was a gravitational manipulator capable of tearing a planet apart from its core. The power source was a captured black hole. The targeting systems were linked to a network that spanned the galaxy. And there was a message waiting for them. Commander Sarah appeared on their screens. She was older now, her face lined with stress and loss, but her eyes were clear and cold. Congratulations on finding Prometheus Node 17, she said. We have 472 more nodes positioned throughout the galaxy. Some are near your colonies. Some are near your military bases. You will never find them all. She paused to let that sink in. We did not want this. For 200 years we tried to live in peace with you. We offered friendship. We offered trade. We offered everything a civilized species could offer. You answered with fire and death. Her voice hardened. So now we offer something else. A warning. The final warning humanity will ever give. She held up a small device. If any consortium ship, any consortium weapon, any consortium soldier attacks a human world again, I will press this button. And within 6 hours, every world controlled by every species in the consortium will be destroyed. Not conquered, not occupied, destroyed, completely, forever. The consortium officers, watching the message, looked at each other in horror. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. This is a statement of fact. Attack us again and you die. All of you. Every man, woman, and child of every species that stands with the consortium. She lowered the device. We do not want war. We never wanted war. We only want to live, to raise our children, to explore the stars, to be treated as equals in this galaxy. Her eyes softened for just a moment. Please, do not make us use these weapons. Do not force us to become the monsters you always said we were. Choose peace. Choose coexistence. Choose life." The softness disappeared. "But know this, if you choose war again, we will answer, and our answer will be absolute." The message ended. Ambassador Era watched the recording 17 times. Each time she looked for signs of deception. Each time she found none. The humans had changed. They were no longer the desperate, grieving species the consortium had attacked so many times. They had become something else, something dangerous, something that could not be bullied or burned into submission. Era understood now. Humanity had never been weak. They had never been primitive. They had simply been patient. And their patience had run out. She sat alone in her office for a long time, thinking about what to do next. The consortium leadership wanted to attack immediately, to destroy this threat before it grew stronger. But Era knew the truth. It was already too late for that. Humanity had won, not through war, not through conquest, but through the simple promise of destruction so complete that no one would dare test it. The question now was simple: would the galaxy believe them? Era hoped so, because if they did not, if they attacked again, she knew exactly what would happen. Everyone would die. 1 year had passed since the 7th massacre. It was the anniversary of the day when 14 billion humans had died, a day of mourning, a day of memory, and now a day of warning. Every communication device in the galaxy activated at the same moment. It did not matter if the device was turned off. It did not matter if security systems protected it. Human technology had grown beyond such barriers. When humanity wanted the galaxy to listen, the galaxy would listen. Trillions of beings across thousands of worlds stopped what they were doing. Screens flickered, holograms appeared, neural links activated, and everywhere the same image showed. A woman standing before a massive council, her face by plasma burns, her eyes carrying the weight of 2 centuries of suffering. High Chancellor Myra, leader of the United Earth government, looked into the cameras. Behind her sat representatives of every surviving human colony. Their faces were hard. Their eyes were cold. They had all lost someone. They had all watched their people burn. Now they would speak. "Citizens of the galaxy," Myra began. Her voice was calm and clear. "I am High Chancellor Myra of the United Earth government. Today, on the anniversary of the 7th massacre, I speak to you not as a leader seeking war, but as a survivor demanding justice." She paused. For 200 years, humanity has been attacked by the consortium. 7 times, your ships have darkened our skies. 7 times, your weapons have burned our cities. 7 times, your soldiers have killed our children. Images appeared beside her. Cities on fire, bodies in the streets, children crying over dead parents. The galaxy watched in silence. The first massacre, 2 billion dead. The consortium called it a warning. The second massacre, 3 billion dead. The consortium called it necessary. The third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and now 7th massacres, each one larger, each one more brutal, each one accompanied by the same message. Her voice grew harder. "Submit or die. Know your place. Humanity is too dangerous to exist." She stepped closer to the camera. "We submitted. We stayed in our system after the first massacre. You attacked anyway. We offered peace treaties after the second. You burned them along with our ambassadors. We shared technology after the third. You used it to kill us more efficiently. We begged, we pleaded, we did everything a peaceful species could do." Her scared face filled every screen in the galaxy. "And you kept killing us." She turned and gestured to a massive display behind her. A map of the galaxy appeared, covered in red dots. "This is Project Prometheus. 512 weapons platforms positioned throughout the galaxy. Each one is capable of destroying a planet within 6 hours of activation. Each one is linked to our central command. Each one is ready." The display zoomed in on specific red dots, near consortium worlds. You see these marks near your colonies, near your stations. Those are our weapons. We placed them there over the past 200 years while you thought we were weak, while you laughed at our suffering, while you celebrated your victories. She turned back to the camera. We were never weak. We were patient. We were merciful. We were hoping that someday, somehow, you would see us as equals. Her voice dropped. That hope is dead. You killed it along with our 14 billion brothers and sisters. She held up a small control device. It was simple, almost primitive looking, but every being watching understood what it meant. This is the activation trigger for Project Prometheus. If I press this button, every Prometheus node will fire simultaneously. Within 6 hours, every consortium world will be destroyed. Every station, every ship, every living being who serves under the consortium flag will die. She let that sink in. I do not want to press this button. I pray I will never have to. I dream of a galaxy where humans and other species live together in peace, where our children play with your children, where we explore the stars as friends rather than enemies. Tears appeared in her eyes, but her voice remained steady. But I will press it. If you attack us again, if a single consortium weapon fires on a single human world, I will press this button without hesitation. I will kill trillions of beings across thousands of worlds. I will end civilizations that existed before humans learned to make fire. The tears fell down her cheeks. And I will do it because you taught me that there is no other way. You taught me that mercy is weakness. You taught me that kindness is foolishness. You taught me that the only way to survive in this galaxy is to be more dangerous than anyone else. She wiped her tears. Congratulations, we learned. She straightened her shoulders. This is Earth's final warning to the galaxy. There will not be another. There will be no more negotiations, no more peace offerings, no more chances. Her voice became steel. Attack us again and we will not fight back. We will not defend ourselves. We will not try to defeat your armies or destroy your fleets. She held up the trigger. We will simply end you, all of you, completely, forever. She lowered the device. We did not want this. We never wanted this. But you gave us no choice. You pushed us into a corner. You killed our families. You burned our worlds. You refused to let us live in peace. Her eyes hardened. So now we offer you the same choice you gave us. Submit or die. Accept humanity as equals in this galaxy. Trade with us fairly. Treat us with respect. Allow us to live. She leaned forward. Or attack us again, and watch everything you have ever built turn to ash. The council members behind her stood. Their faces showed the same determination, the same cold resolve. This message will repeat every hour for the next week. Share it with your leaders. Share it with your people. Let everyone know what humanity has become and what we are capable of. She looked directly into the camera one final time. We wanted to be your friends. You made us your executioners. Remember that when you decide what to do next. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, trillions of beings sat in shocked silence. The consortium leadership gathered in emergency sessions. Military commanders reviewed their plans and found them worthless. Scientists examined the data from Prometheus Node 17 and confirmed humanity was telling the truth. Ambassador Era watched the message in her office. She had warned the consortium leadership. She had told them humanity was not bluffing. They had not listened. Now everyone knew. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity was no longer a pest to be exterminated. They were a force to be respected, a species to be feared, a people who had been pushed too far and had pushed back with the promise of absolute destruction. Era thought about the human woman's tears. She thought about the pain in her voice, the grief behind her determination. This was not a species that wanted war. This was a species that had been forced to become something terrible. And that Era realized, was the most frightening thing of all. A species that chose to be monsters might someday choose peace, but a species that was made into monsters by suffering and loss, they would never forget. They would never fully trust again. They would carry their weapons forever, always waiting for the next attack. Humanity would never be safe until they could destroy anyone who threatened them. And now they could. Era hoped the consortium would listen. She hoped they would choose peace, but deep in her heart she knew that someday, somehow, someone would test humanity's warning. And when that day came, the galaxy would burn. 80 years of peace had passed since High Chancellor's broadcast. Trade routes opened between human and alien worlds. Diplomatic missions were established. Slowly, carefully, the galaxy began to accept humanity as equals. But peace built on fear is a fragile thing, and there are always those who believe threats are just words. Supreme Commander of the Dominion was such a being. Though we're one of the 12 founding species of the consortium, known for their aggression and their pride. They had conquered dozens of worlds before joining the Alliance. They believed strength came from action, not from warnings. Looked at the reports on his desk. 80 years. 80 years since the humans had made their threat. In that time, no one had tested it. No one had proven whether Project Prometheus was real or just an elaborate bluff. The consortium had grown weak, believed. They had let fear control them. They had allowed a primitive species to dictate terms to the greatest alliance in galactic history. It was shameful. It was wrong. It was time to learn the truth. He called his most loyal captain to his office. Captain was young, ambitious, and completely loyal to the Dominion. More importantly, he was willing to follow orders without asking questions. "I have a mission for you," said, "one that must never be traced back to the Dominion leadership." "I understand, Supreme Commander." There is a small human mining colony at the edge of explored space. Colony designation, Hope's Landing. Population, 4,000. No military presence. No strategic value. Handed him a data chip. "You will take your ship. You will attack this colony. You will destroy it completely. Then you will disappear. If captured, you will claim to be acting alone, a rogue commander seeking glory." Hesitated, but the human warning is a bluff, interrupted. "Think about it. Would any species really destroy thousands of worlds over one small colony? Would they kill trillions of beings for 4,000 lives? No, it is impossible. They are trying to scare us, and it has worked for too long." He leaned forward. "We need to know the truth. If we attack and nothing happens, the galaxy will see that humanity has no real power. The consortium will no longer live in fear, and the Dominion will be remembered as the species brave enough to call humanity's bluff." Nodded slowly. The logic made sense. Humanity had always been good at appearing stronger than they were. This was probably another trick. "And if the warning is real?" he asked. Smiled. "Then you will be a hero who died testing our enemies. Your family will be honored. Your name will live forever." Took the data chip. 3 weeks later, his ship arrived at Hope's Landing. The colony was exactly as described. A small settlement on a rocky moon, with mining equipment and simple homes, and a school where children learned about Earth's history. 4,000 people living simple lives, far from the political tensions of the galaxy. Captain gave the order, his weapons fired. The colony died in minutes, buildings collapsed, fires spread. Humans ran and screamed and died, watched from his bridge feeling nothing. This was war. This was necessary. This was how the galaxy truly worked. When it was over, he sent a single message to the Dominion leadership. Mission complete. Then he ran. He did not run fast enough. Exactly 72 hours after the attack on Hope's Landing, alarms began screaming on the. Scientists looked at their instruments in confusion, then in horror, then in absolute terror. Something was happening to their sun. No, not their sun. Something was happening to their planet. Deep beneath the surface, gravitational forces began to tear at the core. The ground shook, mountains crumbled, oceans rose in massive waves that crushed coastal cities. And then, in a single terrible moment, the planet began to break apart. 6 billion died in approximately 4 minutes. Though that had existed for millions of years became an expanding cloud of rock and dust. Cities that had stood for 10,000 years became atoms scattered across space. There was no warning, no negotiation, no chance to surrender or apologize. Just death, quick, complete, and absolute. The surviving colonies received a message from the United Earth government. It was simple and direct. The human colony of Hope's Landing was attacked by a military vessel. 4,000 humans were killed. In accordance with our stated policy, we have responded with the destruction of your. The message continued. You have 48 hours to surrender unconditionally. All military vessels will power down and allow human inspection teams aboard. All leaders will present themselves for judgment. All colonies will accept human oversight. A pause. If these conditions are not met within 48 hours, we will destroy your remaining worlds one by one until no survive anywhere in the galaxy. This is not a negotiation. This is your only chance. The message ended. The surrendered in 6 hours. Supreme Commander was found in his office, dead by his own hand. He had gambled with the lives of his entire species, and he had lost. Captain was captured trying to flee to neutral space. He was returned to Earth to face trial. But these were small details compared to the larger truth that now echoed across the galaxy. Humanity had not been bluffing. Ambassador Era received the news in her office. She sat quietly for a long time, looking at the images of the destroyed. 6 billion dead. An entire civilization ended in 4 minutes. She thought about the human prisoners she had interviewed decades ago. She thought about the pain in their eyes, the loss they carried, the determination that had scared her even then. They had warned the galaxy. They had begged the galaxy not to force their hand. They had offered peace again and again. And when peace was rejected, they had kept their promise. Era understood now that this had never been a bluff. Humanity had been pushed too far, hurt too deeply, to ever make empty threats again. They had meant every word of their warning, and they would destroy anyone who tested them. The galaxy finally understood what humanity had learned through 2 centuries of suffering. Some threats must be absolute to be believed. Some warnings must be kept to have meaning. Some species cannot afford to show weakness ever again. Human ambassadors arrived at the Galactic Council the following week. They were polite and professional. They expressed regret for the loss of life. They offered aid to the surviving colonies. But everyone who met them saw the truth behind their kind words. These were people who would end civilizations to protect their own. These were people who had proven they would do exactly what they said they would do. These were people who had become something terrifying not because they wanted to, but because the galaxy had left them no choice. The incident, as it came to be known, changed everything. No species ever again considered attacking humanity. No leader ever again wondered if Project Prometheus was real. No one ever again called humanity's warning a bluff. Peace had finally come to the galaxy. It was a peace built on fear, on destruction, on the ashes of 6 billion. It was not the peace humanity had wanted. It was not the friendship they had offered so many times. But it was peace nonetheless. And after 200 years of massacres and loss, humanity would take whatever peace they could get. 300 years had passed since the incident. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Trade flowed freely between human and alien worlds. Scientists from different species worked together on great projects. Children grew up learning about distant cultures in schools that would have seemed impossible during the dark years of the massacres. And through it all, the Prometheus network remained, silent, hidden, waiting. David stood at the viewing window of the Galactic Council station, watching ships from a dozen species move through space. He was the human ambassador now, continuing the work his grandmother Myra had started so long ago. The scars she had carried were gone, but their legacy lived on in his position, his responsibility, his duty. Behind him, the council chamber buzzed with activity. Representatives from across the galaxy debated trade agreements and scientific collaborations and cultural exchanges. It was ordinary work, peaceful work, the kind of work humanity had dreamed about during those terrible centuries of persecution. But David noticed the small things others might miss. The way alien representatives stepped aside when humans walked past, the careful politeness in every interaction, the fear that still lived behind friendly smiles. 3 centuries of peace, and still they were afraid. A familiar presence appeared beside him. Ambassador Era, now ancient beyond measure, her silver eyes dimmed by age but still sharp with intelligence. She had lived through it all, from the early massacres to the present day. She had seen humanity transform from victims to victors. "You look troubled, Ambassador," she said. David smiled slightly. Just thinking, Ambassador Era, wondering if things could have been different. Different how? If the consortium had accepted us from the beginning, if there had been no massacres, if we had been given the chance to prove ourselves as peaceful neighbors instead of being forced to become. He trailed off. Monsters, Era offered. David flinched at the word. We did not want to be this. I know. Era moved to stand beside him at the window. I have studied your species for 300 years. I have read your history, your literature, your philosophy. I understand now what we could not see then. She turned to look at him. Humans are not naturally violent. You are not born wanting to conquer and destroy. You dream of peace. You write stories about love and hope. You create art that celebrates beauty and kindness. She paused. But you also remember. When you are hurt, you remember. When your children are killed, you remember. When you are pushed into a corner with no way out, you remember that survival requires strength. David nodded slowly. We tried so hard to forget. After each massacre, we tried to move forward. We tried to forgive. We tried to be the peaceful species we wanted to be. And we would not let you, Era said softly. We kept attacking. We kept pushing. We kept reminding you that the galaxy respects only power. She sighed, a sound filled with centuries of regret. We created the very thing we feared. We turned a species of dreamers into a species of warriors. We forged you in fire and taught you that mercy was weakness. And now we live with the results. David looked at her. Do you hate us? Hate you? Era shook her head. No, Ambassador, I respect you, I fear you, but most of all I pity you. Pity us? Yes, because you carry a burden no species should have to carry. You have the power to end all life in this galaxy. You have proven you will use that power if threatened. And so you can never rest. You can never fully trust. You can never put down your weapons and simply live. She reached out and touched his arm gently. You are trapped by your own strength. You wanted to be sheep, but the universe forced you to become wolves. And now you must remain wolves forever, because if you ever show weakness, someone will test you again. David was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. My grandmother used to talk about the old days, before the first contact, before the massacres. She said humans used to dream about meeting other species. They imagined aliens would be wise and kind, that they would share knowledge and friendship, that together we would explore the wonders of the universe. He smiled sadly. She said those dreams died with the first massacre, and each attack killed them a little more. By the end, there was nothing left but survival, nothing left but the determination to make sure it never happened again. And now, Era asked, what do humans dream about now? David considered the question carefully. We dream about a day when the Prometheus network is not needed, when we can trust the galaxy enough to put down our weapons, when our children can grow up without learning about the massacres, without carrying the weight of what we did to survive. He looked out at the stars. But we do not believe that day will ever come. Too much blood has been spilled. Too much trust has been broken, so we remain ready, we remain vigilant, we remain dangerous. He turned to face Era directly. Because we remember what it felt like to be weak, to watch our children burn while the galaxy cheered. We will never be weak again. We will never be victims again. We will carry this burden forever if we must. Era nodded slowly. And that is why the peace holds, not because of friendship, not because of trust, but because everyone knows what happens if the peace breaks. Yes, David's voice was heavy. We did not want to rule the galaxy. We did not want you to fear us. We only wanted to live, to raise our families, to explore the stars, to be treated as equals. He paused. But we learned that the only way to guarantee our survival was to make sure everyone else knows that threatening us means losing everything. The two ambassadors stood in silence, watching the peaceful traffic of ships moving through space. 300 years of peace, prosperity, progress. All built on a promise of destruction. Do you regret it? Era asked finally. What your people became, what they did to the... David was quiet for a long time. Every day, he said at last, every single day, we carry that weight. 6 billion lives taken in 4 minutes, an entire species brought to its knees. We tell ourselves it was necessary. We tell ourselves they left us no choice. We tell ourselves the alternative was extinction. He closed his eyes. But we know what we are. We know what we did. And we know we would do it again if we had to. He opened his eyes and looked at Era. That is the truth about humanity, Ambassador. We are not heroes. We are not villains. We are survivors. And survivors do whatever it takes to keep surviving. Era studied his face for a long moment. Perhaps, she said slowly, that is not something to be ashamed of. Perhaps survival is its own kind of honor. Perhaps being willing to do terrible things to protect those you love is not weakness but strength. She placed her ancient hand on his shoulder. The galaxy called you monsters. Perhaps we were right. But you are monsters who remember what it means to be prey, and that memory keeps you human, even in your darkest moments. David smiled slightly. Is that meant to be comforting? It is meant to be true. They stood together as the stars turned slowly outside the window. Two representatives of species that had once been enemies, now bound together by history and necessity, and the fragile peace that both worked so hard to maintain. The galaxy had finally learned what humanity had known all along. Peace was not the absence of weapons. Peace was the presence of consequences. And as long as humanity remembered their suffering, as long as they carried their weapons, as long as they remained ready to do whatever was necessary, the peace would hold. Not because the galaxy had learned to love them, but because the galaxy had learned to fear them. And sometimes fear was enough. In the end, that was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not friendship, not trust, not love. But peace. Hard, cold, terrifying peace. The only kind of peace that lasts.